Hi.
Welcome to Podro Pascal, the Pedro Pascal podcast, where we talk about Pedro Pascal, all self explanatory things. If you've been
Yes.
here or if you're new, it's pretty obvious what we do. I'm your co host, Rachel Leishman.
And I'm your other co-host, Catrina Dennis. With us today, our dear friend, Arezou. Go ahead and tell the world who you are.
I'm Arezou. I'm Arezou. I'm a friend of these two, but it's my first time here, so I'm excited about that.
And what a time to bring Arezou on. She is here for one reason and one reason only. And that is for Dr. who we learned his first name today, Penn Pershing.
Dr. Penn Pershing.
It's such a bad name. I'm so sorry. Buddy, I love you, but the fact that your name is Penn, I was like, what are you, fucking Cal Penn? Why is your name just Penn? Penn Badgley?
No.
Who else has a pen?
Goodness.
Penn
The
Badgley, Penn and
abbreviation
Teller.
is terrible.
Dr. Pee-Pee. I'm over here. Katrina's over there like, oh, the abbreviation. And I'm over here going, how many people are named Penn? Because there's Penn and Teller. I'm counting Cal Penn, even though it's his last name. Penn Badgley. Who am I missing that's a Penn? Penn State. But that's for Pennsylvania.
Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing.
Just Penn. Oh my god.
That sounds like a new murder mystery show in the making.
Dr. Pee-Pee?
Pennsylvania Pershing. All he wants to do is retire, but he keeps getting pulled back in when he runs into a new weekly murder.
They call me Pershing. Pennsylvania Pershing. His real name is like George, and he was like, my name's Penn Pershing. His mom in the afterlife's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I didn't name you Penn. I named you George. It's a good, strong name, George. Guys, we're talking about The Mandalorian. We're off to a rip rolling start. We're talking about The Mandalorian, season 3, episode 3, but it's chapter 19. Because the show wants to just fuck with us, titled The Convert. That's the impression Again, guys, if you're not watching the YouTube videos, you're missing a crawl, which Catrina just wrote that says, watch Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing every Wednesday at midnight. And I like that the only things capitalized in it are Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing. Not Wednesday or midnight. Or anything that would be typically capitalized.
Just the time. Not fun.
You know, I have a style. I'm trying to stay true to it, you know. Bring some character to the news ticker.
But Arezou is here for a reason.
Oh god.
So, Arezou, tell the people about yourself and about your love for Dr. Pershing, which is one of the reasons why you asked specifically to be on an episode of this for him.
There's two parts to this story. One part involves the two of you, but I'm going to do the part before that. So, when the first episode came out of The Mandalorian, I'm just like watching it and I see this man pop up. And it's like, this is Dr. Pershing. And I'm like, oh, cool. That guy looks super familiar. And then I look in the credits and I realize it's Omid Abtahi, who's an Iranian-American actor who is like, he's been in Argo, he's been stuff like, oh, that's super cool that there's like an Iranian guy in space. And of course, he's a doctor because he didn't have another career choice. So I just tweeted this out, tagged him because I was feeling bold. And he think this was really funny. So he quote tweeted this and he's like, the pressure is real. I'm going, because you get it, because he's not a doctor, but he plays one on TV. I don't even play one on TV. So I'm a whole other level of disappointment. But I'm like, okay, cool. That was fun. What a cute little interaction. Let me keep an eye out for this guy. And then like, I don't know. You just like gravitate towards the sole crumb of representation that you get. So I'm like, this is it. He's my guy. So yeah, so I basically just kind of kept my eye on him like through the 2 seasons. And then this is where the two of you come in. Is we were all at Star Wars Celebration last year and he was also there as like a guest. And I was like, oh my God, he's here, whatever. And Rachel, you were like, do you want to do a meet and greet? So I was like, no meet and greet. It's like, it's all about him just existing in this space. So it's the last day of the con. We are on our way out, like, because they are kicking us out. Like, that's how over the con is. We're all in the courtyard. I'm acting like an idiot. Mm-hmm. And one of you was like, Arezou, your doctor is right over there. And I'm like, oh my God. And then you're like, you should go talk to him. And I'm like, No, I don't want to bother him. It's no bother. So for those who haven't seen us standing side by side, I'm like at least half a foot taller than the two of you, and you're both dragging me across the courtyard. Like, no, you're gonna go talk to him. And you're
Katrina
gonna
and I
go, "Hi."
really did. We were like the Italian in both of us popped out. We were
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you want to meet him? All right." And we just like
Let's go.
we went and got. We're like, "This is Arezou."
Mhm.
So like he's like speaking to somebody else, like possibly in French. There was like French involved. I don't remember what was happening. And then like I get like pushed forward and I just kind of recap my feelings. And he was like, "Oh, that's so cool. Are you Iranian?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What's your name?" I'm like, "Arezou." He's like, "Oh, you're Arezou from Twitter." I was like, "Oh my god."
Here's the image of him saying you're Arezou from Twitter. Just to clarify.
Yep.
There's
I'm
my
very
face.
proud that I captured that. That's the exact moment too. That's literally when he was saying it. And I just like I hit that button like 25 times and caught that. And yeah.
Yeah. And like I was like, "Oh my god, what have you seen?" Because my mind is not going to this joke. It's going to all the horny nonsense that's happened since. I'm like, "What exactly stuck out to you?" And then I remembered that that's what that was. And he's like, "Since you're here, I have a question." He starts asking me like canon questions. And I'm like, "I love that you think I know this, but of the two of us, one of us has Jon Favreau's phone number and it's not me." So like I don't know why I'm the one being asked these things, but that was like a really cool interaction. So yeah, so when we realized he was going to be in this season, I was like, I have to come on for his first episode so that we can tell that story.
I do need to make a note that Arezou has also yelled at me and Maggie, a friend of the podcast, in the past because she did not know that Kayvon Novak was Iranian from What We Do in the Shadows. And so she has a trend where she will just yell at you if you don't alert her that an
Iranian.
actor is somewhere. Because we were just watching What We Do in the Shadows at New York Comic Con, and you were like, "You didn't tell me." We were like, "I didn't know I had to alert you."
No, because
like,
my
it's
thing
a
was, I'm like, "You didn't tell me
popular
he was Iranian, and you didn't tell me he was cute." That was my problem.
we were like, "It's a
Two
popular
requisites
show."
were
Arezou.
not informed.
We were like, "We tried to just tell you to watch it. It's a good show." And you were like, "But you didn't tell me that fact." I was like, "It's a good show."
Okay, because of the like 17 million things you guys are telling me to watch, like I gotta weed it out somehow. So let me support my people first,
Basically, guys,
and then I'll watch
if
everything
there's
else.
a good show, and you're like, it's a good show with a hot Iranian actor in it, you gotta
the one
let
I'll watch
Arezou know
first.
right now. You gotta let her know
Mhm.
out the gate.
Like that, truly, that is the one I will watch first. Like of all the prestige nonsense out there, and I don't mean nonsense affectionate out there. There's a reason I watched The Old Man first. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I can't believe you beat me to The Old Man because I have not yet watched The Old Man, and I need to because it's Jeff Bridges.
it's got a hot Iranian actress. So I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this one first. So,
But yeah, so guys,
yeah. Anyway,
if you need a Dr. Pershing fan, look no further than Arezou. It was really sweet because it is that Twitter interaction. Like Katrina and I did manhandle you and bring you over to him, and we were like, "You're gonna talk to him," because the entire weekend I was trying to get you to talk to him. So I was like, "The fates, whoosh, the fates have allowed this to happen." I think this is such a little gift for you and also made me care about him in so many ways. I am not the kind of person that typically like feels bad for former Empire employees, but I like felt bad for him in this episode. I was like, this poor man who was like, I just wanted to do some experiments. Like he's like now working a desk job.
it's one thing when we have these characters where like I care about them because I like them for XYZ reason, but there's like nothing to support that. And then they're like, actually, here's a whole backstory. And you're like, see, I was right to care, even though you didn't know that was coming.
Like, I knew that he was going to be so sad about not being able to do cloning experiments and then get betrayed. I knew.
The dynamic was too good, you guys. I really we'll get to that in a second, but like it was nice to see him expanded upon because if you're a Star Wars fan, you're used to falling in love with characters who get like one or two stories every 10 years, you know. So it was cool to see him come back so quickly.
And like such a substantial role too, because like the first few seasons he's just kind of like, in the second season he's a hologram, he's not even really there. Oh no, wait, I forgot about the finale. He's also in the finale, but like he's barely in the second season. He's just kind of like there to tell them what's going on. And in the first season, he's like in the background. And then now they're like, what if we dedicate this entire episode to this man and his sad life? And I'm just like, why don't we do that? We should do that.
And then he gets the Will Byers treatment by the end of it.
Yeah.
They called it a mind frayer. I'm sorry. All I thought about was fucking Stranger Things and D&D. Every time they called that thing its name, I was like, it's the mind flayer.
I was like, that makes perfect sense because I've heard of a mind flayer, but then I'm like, wait, but I haven't heard it here though. I heard it in Stranger Things.
What they meant was it was a mind fryer, but they said frayer. But then I'm like, that sounds like mind flayer, which is
were they not saying mind flayer the whole time?
I think they said frayer, like F-R-A-Y. No?
Okay, I heard mind flayer. I'm like, I don't know. You're probably right because mind flayer is something else. But I'm like, okay, it's a mind flayer. That's fine.
Listen, whatever. Well, we were wrong because the New Republic rebranded it. But
the New Republic are huge Stranger Things fans.
They rebranded. Okay, so the episode does have Din in it briefly, but he's in it. So we start the episode pretty much where the last one ended, where Din is like knocked the fuck out. I do love the beginning of this episode because it's like Din Djarin maybe is dead. Bo-Katan's having a crisis of identity, and then Grogu's like, yo, you good? Like, hey, dad, you good? Because he's just laying there because she didn't take off his helmet to like give him CPR or anything, so Din could be just dead. He's not. He coughs. He's like, I'm okay. And
I like that when he's trying to sit up, Grogu's just like walking right behind him. He's like, I helped him sit up.
You good, dude? Yeah, Grogu doesn't have much to do in this episode, but he's a mood, as the kids say. Because he's like, yo, you good, dad? Through the whole beginning part when Din is maybe dead. And then what happens right after, Bo-Katan's like, maybe everything I thought was a lie isn't, and my whole life is a lie, and now I have to re-examine everything, because she's just like, crisis mode. They get in her ship, and then all of a sudden a bunch of fighters are after them, and I still don't understand why. Din says something to Bo, but I like missed what it was, and I was like, I don't know why these fucking planes. I don't know why these fighters are here. And then so much happened, I never went back and thought about it. So, do either of you know why the fighters are there? Because I don't.
I have a big theory.
Ooh, let's hear it.
I feel like Moff Gideon is like behind everything, like behind the whole Pershing side of things, but also he's like, we need to take these two out once and for all because they're just going to toss that darksaber back and forth and it's never going to come back this way. So he's like, what if I just took out Bo-Katan and her house just to be safe? So he sent the TIE fighters because he knows that the two of them are hanging out. That's what I'm down with.
I'm sure some man on the internet's like, they said this. I don't care what they said. I watched it at 7:30 in the morning. You think I fucking remember? There were a bunch of fighters all of a sudden. When I rewatch,
like Bo thinks it's a warlord before some guy comes in here. Bo thinks it's a warlord, but then Din points out that it's too many for a warlord. So it's not a warlord. We're gonna put that away.
There we go. See, I know some things. Yeah, I know that it wasn't clear. So they like emerge again. Din maybe has brain damage. We don't know how long he was not breathing before anyone checked on him. He's in a tin can, not breathing. No one cares. He's just laying on the ground. But they're in the thing. Bo's like, I need you to shoot them in the back. She basically makes him do what Finn does when him and Rey are trying to escape in the Falcon. Yeah. But when they're in the Falcon, they're like, that's basically what Bo-Katan tells him to do. She's like, go shoot in the back. And he's like, okay. And he like walks back there. But Grogu, again, is a mood because he's like, you know what? I'm good. And he just like shuts himself in his little thing and sits there. He's force sensitive, and he went, nah, I'm just gonna sit in my little. He's like, I'm gonna sit in my little egg. You guys can figure it out. Let me know when I'm safe. Then
it's my turn for a nap.
Yeah, he's like, all right, you guys are in the middle of some stuff.
If I were a baby, I would use the excuse of being a baby all the time.
He's 50. He's like 55 now.
Year-old baby.
He's like
I can't
55-year-old
believe
baby.
He's a 50-year-old baby.
He's a 55-year-old baby. Yeah, I just love him. Also, I'm so sorry for R5. R5 kept falling. He was like, and just like did it like 3 times, and no one helped him. They were like, we have more important things to be worrying about than you.
R5 needs to retire somewhere quiet and grassy.
Something just
It's like a farm upstate.
No, you said that, and I instantly thought about Luke's like hiding place, and I'm like, you can't be making him go there.
No,
he's like, I gotta
somewhere
do with the
flat.
fish nuts, the fish nuts,
Somewhere
and the
like
blue titty
Naboo,
milk.
somewhere flat and grassy.
So he's going to Lake Como
There we
in
go.
Italy. So Din does another hot thing because listen, Din is all about doing hot things this season. So far, nothing has topped him stopping that chair from spinning round in the first episode. That was extremely hot, but this is a close second because he's like, all right, get me to my ship, get me to the Naboo and one fighter, and then I can go ahead and like I'll help. Like we'll have 2 ships fighting these guys versus just like the one ship. He jumps out midair. Like she does. Bo-Katan's like, I can't slow down. You gotta just jump. Which at first I was like, what? And then I was like, wait, he has a fucking jetpack. Like he's fine. No matter what, he's fine. Jumps down and like slides into this position that is not like it's like a superhero landing, but like if it was a dance move,
Right.
if that makes sense, because he like spins out of it and then lands.
Makes sense.
Which is he's spending too much time looking cool when you got to get in the plane and then go the plane.
That's
I said
what
a
things
plane
keep going
again. I called it a plane again. He got to get in his ship and go. They take out some of these fighters. Him and Bo were like, look at us, we did it. Until a fucking sea of them show up, destroy the Bo-Katan's castle that she was living in with just the robot. Oh, did the robot die?
Probably.
He had such a sad life. No one else was there.
I mean, R5 blew up and R5 is fine now, so maybe the robot's fine.
I hope so.
He's like
I hope
sheltered
so.
under like a bubble of rock, and he's just gonna dig himself out while Bo's off dealing with the cult.
Yeah, I hope he's fine because I do feel bad. On this podcast, I did say like Bo-Katan like was just sitting. She had a blanket, but she didn't have any books or anything. I don't know what she was doing with her free time, sitting on her throne. So like in theory, she didn't lose much because she wasn't doing anything in that house. She just had a blanket. But I do feel bad for that droid. I will remember you. This is the second time in 2 nights I've sang Sarah McLachlan's I Will Remember You on this podcast. The first one was if Ashley didn't delete them yet, she didn't. Was I sang them for The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
I sang them for the
So
images of The Last of Us.
1 week.
Yeah, that's what I said. Twice in back-to-back nights I was saying Sarah McLachlan. All this to say that like Din is like, oh, we're gonna I know a safe place. First of all, I love you, Din Djarin, but you're a fucking sneaky little bitch. I know a safe place. I'm gonna jump us to the safe place is your cult. You were like, I just want to go tell them I did it. Meanwhile, there's a million things going on.
He just wants the approval. He wants to be told he's a good boy. That's what it is.
Which, listen, on the one hand, I do get it because I'm a person that if I text you, you don't instantly respond to me. You both have been the recipients of my "I think you hate me" texts, where I'm like, I give you 5 minutes, and I'm like, "Do you hate me? Like, what happened? Like, what did I do wrong?" So I think like he has a bit of that where he's like, they hate me because I wasn't redeemed. They hated me. I need to go home. I need to go and prove to them I did it. I brought the water. So he was like, I know a safe place where I go in to be redeemed. That's a safe place. Which, sure, Din. Sure. Go to the crew of Mandalorians who don't like you. No matter what, they don't like you. They don't like him.
Don't tell him. He doesn't know.
He's got to learn how it works eventually.
Yeah.
Because he's my himbo. He's dumb as rocks. They don't like him even when he was redeemed. They were like, I don't like you. I don't like your nonsense. But he's still whatever. Din is like, I got a safe place. Hyper speed jump to this place. And then we go to the tried and the true town we all know and love, Coruscant. And so Arezou, if you would like, I'm passing the baton over and you can talk about what happens with Dr. Pershing.
Okay, so this is the bulk of the episode. Dr. Pershing is giving a talk at what I thought might be the Opera House from Revenge of the Sith, but I'm not like 100% sure. Because Coruscant's big, maybe they have more than one opera house.
It's those stairs, though, they looked like the Opera House from Revenge of the Sith, though.
It felt intentional.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna say it was intentional. So he's giving this talk to everybody about like what his deal was and this whole rehabilitation program, which was it was giving Alphabet Squadron. I loved it. And then he like starts talking about his mom and how she
Mhm.
died of preventable disease, and how he's like, if we could just clone body parts, then that wouldn't have happened. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then he's like on his way out, and everybody's like, oh my God, the New Republic must love that you're here because you're such a like valuable member of society and your work is really helping people. And it's not, because they won't let him do his work because he's doing like data entry.
That was
which is
the crazy part about it.
Yeah. Like every graduate student's nightmare is you get your fancy degree and now you're doing data entry.
That scene had the worst people I've ever met in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Sorry to like the literal Nazis, but those people who were like, no, we stay out of politics. I'm like, you guys, well, the former regime was fascist. So crazy thing to say that we stay out.
They weren't even 100% sure who was still in power. Because one of the guys was like, the Empire, and his wife's like, no, honey, it's the New Republic now. I'm like, oh my God. There was a war.
It was giving Hunger Games where like the District 1 or the Capitol people are like, I just go to the party. It's like that's what it was giving. And I was like, I guess I never thought about how Coruscant and places like that would exist during the Empire. Like, would there be people who are like, I'm fine? Like, I never thought about it. And then I saw them and I was like, oh, these people suck. They're bad.
There was like the like one guy who's like, oh, I would have enlisted, but like bone spurs or whatever. Like and his wife's like, that's the same guy who didn't know which regime was in power. So like he's really not winning any awards today.
Absolutely not. So, it's fun. I mean, like it's meant to show, I guess, and you guys know this, that it's like, you know, new war, same people. There are folks who are just so rich that they're never ever affected by anything that happens to like the rest of the galaxy. And it's a reminder that even though the Empire's gone, these people will still continue to live.
It's like the thing where like he's coming out like, oh my God, your story, it was so inspiring. It was so inspiring. It's like the people who they'll see somebody talk about a personal tragedy. They're like, I can't imagine. It's like, well, you can imagine. You don't want to, because you're like, well, this is never going to happen to me. So yeah, it was not great. I did not care for that.
Oh,
I mean, like I get why it was there.
I didn't mean to pull up that picture.
But it's valid because it's that kind of personal tragedy.
My hand hit the thing and I was like, why is Joel crying?
And they're like, oh no, your loss was so inspiring. I'm like, this is Mom.
Yeah. And that part I was like, oh, they want us to relate to him, and oh no, I'm going to. Like that was real. Where I was like, oh, but like it is such a kind of not a bait and switch, that's not the right wording for it, but it is one of those things where you're like, oh, cool. Like so he's doing something good with his work versus, you know, trying to kill Grogu. No, it's not the case. So I was
that was sort of what I'd suspected initially, like in season 1 when Din comes in to get Grogu and he's like, no, don't hurt him, because he just assumes Din's there to shoot him. And he's like, don't hurt him, like he's a child. And he's like, oh, he's here for Grogu. So then he starts explaining like, no, if I hadn't done what I did, he would have been dead. Like whatever. Okay, so clearly he's like here because they gave him grant money or whatever. Like he doesn't actually believe in the ethics of the Empire. It's just this is the government and this is where he can do his work. And then they like double down on that. They're like, yeah, he got into it for the right reasons. And then they just kind of started using the tech for less good reasons. And the Empire doesn't really care whether or not you agree. So
and it's reflected later too, his mentality for it. Because just to jump ahead slightly and then we can go back, when he is talking about all the data that they're destroying, he's like, some of this technology is like, you can use it for good though. Like you can change what you use this for and it could be used for good. And they were like, no, it's Imperial, get rid of it. Which shows the mentality of like, he was using his stuff for good. The Empire was the ones that were using it for bad. And now the New Republic is just like flipping 180 and going the entire opposite direction versus seeing some of the stuff that's good and being like, well, we can use this for this instead.
It's like the whole mess of the New Republic is them kind of, like you said, taking this whole 180 and being like, well, we're going to completely do away with all of this stuff. Meanwhile, the fascism is still brewing. The First Order is still rising. And they're like, well, we've got none of this. We don't have, like, they're decommissioning alliance stuff, which means what? It means by the time we get to the resistance, they don't have old ships. They don't have old tech. They don't have old weapons. They got nothing. And they have to scramble and patch stuff together while the First Order is like, we've got all this fancy stuff. Like,
they got all the
set
fancy
themselves
stuff
up
that
for
the
it.
New Republic fucking put in junkyards. And it is weird that they did it when we know, like, Moff Gideon is still out there.
And escaped,
they're like-
apparently.
Yeah, they're just, like, destroying things where it's like, there are still troopers. And there are still people who are like, no, the Empire was right. And you're getting rid of the things that could help you fight the small bits of the Empire that are still in existence. Make sense. No wonder you guys fucking failed and the resistance happened. Like, no wonder.
The fact that Carson Teva is like walking around the outer rim, like patrolling it by himself and like trying to get everybody to sign on with the New Republic. Like, clearly there are a lot of like planets that are still not part of the New Republic. Where do they think their affiliation is? Who do they think is running these places?
They're not Twitter.
thinking is
They
the
can't
answer,
tweet
but-
out. They can't tweet out like, "Hey guys, Empire's dead. New Republic's in." What are they gonna do? Send a little voice memo?
They're gonna send one guy
Yo.
in his X-Wing to tell everybody in person, apparently, because that's what seems to be happening.
I wish it was an X-wing, but like the planes that have the messages.
Like with the banner.
So it was like, yeah, he flew by and it was like, New Republic in, Empire out, tell your friends. And he just like flew by everything.
Hashtag New Republic.
And then the one guy who's a loader was like, I didn't see the message. And they're like, well, it said tell your friends and you don't have, you
He's
missed
going to be the Paul Revere of the New Republic.
Paul Revere, because there's only one guy who can do it. Yeah, they have all this technology, but no means of mass communication. Unless you're Fiona Shaw, then you can leave a giant.
Why didn't Leia record a couple of those and just send those around?
I don't know. Listen, they like no fucking.
These are questions we can't solve right now.
No fucking reason that the New Republic failed, because you had one person who had a brain cell. And that would be Leia, and she can't do everything. And no one else had brain cells. They all shared a collective half of one, because they'd be like, well, how are we supposed to tell everybody? We're all in one area. I don't know. What if you all spread out? And then you all do, someone just use a brain and let people know, because this is chaotic. The beginning part of this episode, or like this section of the episode where he's like talking about his cloning stuff, does lead to like the priorities of the New Republic are fucking wild, because they established a whole system for basically, for lack of a better way of describing it, decommissioning Imperial officers and like people who worked for the Empire and putting them through all these systems. And yet you didn't tell the rest of the galaxy that the Empire is dead, but you have made up this whole fucking system with like different programs in it for people.
Here's my other problem with that program. I like it in theory, because I'm like, okay, like the people up at the top, the Moffs, the whatever, like 100% did it on purpose. And then there are people who like wanted the dental plan. They wanted to save their mom. Like it was a government job. Like those people, they're like, those people can go through this rehabilitation program. I'm like, okay, cool. I like this in theory, but we've got them living in college dorms in one place. So all they're doing is talking about what they used to do.
Yeah,
You're not letting them use their names anymore. So they've got like stormtrooper numbers. So we're dehumanizing them too. And like they're all doing entry level work. There's like they can't leave a certain area. I'm like, well, we're lucky Pershing is super chill, because like anybody would crack under that. And they're like, I can't believe they cracked. Like I can.
And not even letting them do what they were good at. Like, why couldn't they have been told Pershing, like, hey, you can't do cloning stuff, like that's against the rules, but like if you want a mobile lab to like work on other things, you can, but if we find out you're working on cloning stuff, we'll take it away. Like you can't do that. You can find different medical solutions. Like I'm sure he'd be like, that's a fair solution, okay, but instead they're like, nope.
He's an entire doctor. You can't tell me there are people that like don't need like a pediatrician. Like, he's a doctor. Like, don't let him clone, but like, he can stitch people up or whatever.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, maybe the amnesty program should have like different places based on your specialty. So like if you were in charge of like a ship driving, a pilot, Jesus Christ. If you were like if you were
Ship driving.
ship driving,
At least you didn't call it plane driving.
Listen, I've said this so many times, but the other day I forgot what pets were called. So like that's where my brain's at. Like I said, those cats and dogs that live with you.
Oh,
And then I was like,
Wow,
pets. I'm looking
wow.
for pets. What they should do is the amnesty program. Hey, New Republic, here's a free idea. The amnesty program should be based on like your specialty from when you were in the Empire. Like, granted, yes, you're gonna have to work your way back up. You're not going to get the same position that you had because you were part of a fascist regime. Even if you were doing it for like, I needed to
Whatever
survive.
reason,
There are
yeah.
people who did it, but they broke it from the inside to be a rebel and they got a pass. So like you could have done some more. And also Pershing, I love you, buddy. However, you were still part of it after it had fully died. So like you do deserve to be in like the bottom because it was dead and he was like, I'm holding on, cloning. So I'm like, you kind of deserve to be at the bottom.
Sure, give him the entry level gig. That's fine.
But yeah,
like,
entry for doctors. Like that's the thing is like it should be like entry for your specialty. What does a doctor have to do with fucking data entry?
nothing.
And then he's
It's
talking to
just
the
like-
fucking girl from Ant-Man.
She has a name. Elia.
Yeah, it's Elia. Katie O'Brien is her name.
Yeah, there we go.
She's great. She seems cool as shit.
Yeah. I think it was interesting how like last season people were just losing their minds over her, and now this season we've got her like in full. I think it's really cool to show. It shows, I think, the power of fandom.
Mhm.
What we can do.
She's got an active role. She's doing some fun stuff.
Everyone's thirsting turned into an active role for Katie O'Brien because I remember very clearly everyone was like, "Who the fuck is that? Who is the who's the hottie working with Moff Gideon?" And then they were like, "Oh, here you go. She is
And now
a
she's
master
in Street
manipulator."
Club.
First of all, I love that the Empire had fucking biscotti cookies. They had biscottis on the fucking as part of their food. What are they, American Airlines?
I was gonna say it's like the airline cookies they give you.
Yeah, I was like, they get those fucking every time I'm on American Airlines, I'm like, give me like 3 of those. I'm flying American Airlines to London. You'll see me Arezou, and I will just have a bunch of fucking Biscoff cookies. Just be like, I got them. I'll buy the packaging though of the Empire cookies and be like, I got them. It's sweet until you think about it for too much. Their whole little friend group, because Pershing obviously goes back to like his dorm, and all these people are like, "Come have a drink with us, Betty." And they're sitting there and they're talking about like what they miss from the old days, and I'm like, the old days of fascism. Just a reminder that the old days.
This is what happens when you make
We're
them all live in the same apartment complex. They got
Like,
nothing else to talk about. If
this is
you
why I couldn't-
move them all like around the city, then he's talking to his neighbors about like recipes or a HoloNet drama
He's
or
asking
whatever.
for some sugar.
Yeah.
He's like, "Can I have some
like
sugar?"
he's not talking about I miss my Empire issued Biscoff cookies. Like he's talking about his new life, and we're not dwelling
Yeah.
on all this.
Or I don't know. Maybe if you want to do the amnesty program and do it well, have a fucking human being talking to them and not the droids. Because a human being would be like, well, you pause, so clearly something's up. What's going on? A droid's like, okay.
It's like talking to automated customer
answer.
service.
Yeah. Like the
Oh,
droid
that's
was like,
great.
okay, you paused, but then you said you were fine, so have a good day. Again, no one is using a brain cell. No one. They got rid of the fascism, yay. And then they said, well, now what? And no one has thought past that. And I would understand if this show took place, like Return of the Jedi happened. They let everyone know, and this show took place within the next like 6 months to a year. It has been like 5 years at this point because it was 2 years between Mando and the second season and now. And it was like a year or two, I think.
It was
between
5
the
years
first-
when the show started, so it's been even longer.
So it's been like almost a decade, and these motherfuckers are like, I don't know what's going. Who's in charge? Do we have anyone? No, nah. Just put them over there. Just let them sit over there. So like for 7 years at minimum, Moff Gideon was like, I'm still playing Empire,
And now they got
like,
all of his subordinates living in the same building.
which Pershing points out. Pershing is like, I didn't think I'd see another Moff Gideon. Like,
This man wants to move to a different part of town
my God.
and not talk to any Imperials ever again.
He's like, let me be fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. Put me in a goddamn cave somewhere with a medical station, and I'll just be the town doctor.
Which honestly does beg the question why
Pennsylvania
they just don't do that. Like, why don't they do that?
Here's my thinking. I'm using half a brain cell to think like the rebels. I think they probably thought, well, we can't let them all go on their own. Who's going to make sure that they don't continue the ways of the Empire wherever they go? So we can't just put them somewhere by themselves. That would be bad. Instead, let's put them where we can monitor them. And then they didn't think anything further. Where like, if you put them all in one spot, they all can work together versus like one person on fucking Tatooine isn't gonna do much damage versus like a whole little colony of former Imperial officers all hanging out together.
It's like the Breakfast Club on Imperial steroids. They put all the troublemakers in the same room.
They really did. And they said L52, B49. It sounds like bingo. Like when they're like saying their names, I'm like, bingo.
And the way he's just introducing them with these codes with like a straight fucking face. He's like, this is M32 or whatever. And he's just like introducing them that way. And I'm like, you hear this, right? Like you hear what you're saying.
Which, listen, we made fun of, and made fun. It was more when they decided we weren't going to get it as a relationship. We made fun of it because I remember the days where Storm Pilot, I love Storm Pilot. Fans were like,
going strong.
oh my
I don't know
God,
what you
he
mean. It's not a
gave his.
relationship.
I meant more of like when we had hope that the movies would let them smooch.
Right.
We were like, oh my God, he gave him his name. But when you sit and think about it, Poe really said, I'm not calling you a bunch of numbers. Your name sounds like Finn. That's what I'm going to call you. Didn't ask. But Finn went with it. This is kind of that, but like if I was a stormtrooper and I came out of being called a bunch of numbers and then I went into what was considered an amnesty program and I'm supposed to be a better person now, your numbers are, I'd be like, why the fuck am I a number? Again, I would like a name. My name is Gregory.
If they're like, no, but if they're like, you can't use your Imperial name, whatever, it's like, fine. My name's not George. Now it's Pennsylvania. Like, you just pick a different name.
That's why his name is Penn. Because they were like, you can keep Pershing, but you can't keep George. He's like, okay, fine.
Like
Pennsylvania.
If you can't
What's
keep
Pennsylvania?
Your name, change your name, but use a name.
It's like you said, it's dehumanizing. So it's like the entire situation doesn't make any sense because it's like I would be fully on board if they fucking became rebels. Because the New Republic is doing basically what the Empire did to them, except they're masquerading it as help. This is for the betterment. No. In what way?
Which is exactly what the Empire does.
Yeah, they took the model of the Empire and they're just like, again, rebranding it. They're just doing what the Empire did and rebranding it. So it's like, again, no fucking, it's not a shock that you guys failed. Like, it's not shocking.
I feel like it's intentional the way they shot this because, like, later in the episode when Elia and Pershing go on, like, their little outing to the carnival and they see the mountain and she's like, it's not that different here than it was in my academy days. They just took away all the, she got the cogs, like the Imperial insignia. So they finished that conversation. And then as we're transitioning to the next shot, we get the shot of the skyscraper with the rebel insignia draped over it. Like this massive rebel flag. And I'm not here to be like the rebels are equal to the Empire. Not at all. Like, obviously, they are not fascists. It's a better approach. A lot of their cosmetic rebrand is drawing a lot of inspiration from the wrong place.
Yeah.
As good as the, like, intention is, because I do think they have the right intention.
Which is,
it's just
70% of what you need. But the 30% of you making a new society should be, reinstating a democracy, maybe not doing the same shit the Empire did in terms of like
see what went wrong before and don't do that. And part of it was like hitting people over the head with it. which
Yeah, why?
might
Yeah,
be
why
where
does it
they.
need to be on there? We know what building it is. Like I
I
was
know I
like,
sound like wildly anti-rebel. That's not the case. The New Republic is great, but like,
yeah, no. Listen, love the rebels. I have I rebel on my arm. I'm a rebel girl. I don't like the Empire at all. I've never really gotten like the only one that I was like, okay, was Anakin, and then he went bad, and I was like, nah, I'm good, man. Don't like the Empire. It is just this episode is so shockingly like, oh, they're bad at this. With how they're approaching it. And maybe it's just Coruscant, but like it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like it does not make sense what they're trying to do because all it's gonna do is create animosity in these people. Which but it does it with Pershing.
because he's just that good a person. He's like, this is
Like
fine. This is fine.
well, because like you said, so they go to this carnival because Elia, which they're still just calling each other numbers and they don't introduce their names until like the end of the episode, which I was like, that's nuts. They are like flirting with each other and they're like, oh yeah, well, like we used to work together, but now look at us, we're good people. We're a good person. And they like go to the carnival. There's ice cream. She gets him in trouble with a robot. And he's like, oh, the robot almost shot me because I tried to touch a rock. And it's all leading to her kind of like putting an idea in his mind of you should start doing your cloning stuff again, which I don't know. You're a doctor, my guy. You couldn't figure out like, hey, it's weird she's pushing the cloning shit and not just telling me like, what if you adapted and tried to just ask them for a lab so you could do some medical stuff, not cloning, just like mess around and do some testing that is all what like if he stopped and thought about it for too long, he'd be like, she's really pushing me doing something that's illegal. That feels weird.
I feel like she's putting like the right kind of pressure on him because if they both worked for Gideon, like she's like, oh, we never met there, but like that's not to say she didn't know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And like whenever we see him prior to this episode, he's not wearing like an Imperial uniform, he's wearing a Kaminoan one. So I'm like, this guy's a clone fanboy. Like if he like I initially thought I'm like, oh, he worked on Kamino and that's why he's got the uniform. Kamino's not there. So he's not working on Kamino, but he's probably working like under that program. So that's not only his specialty, that's like his thing. That's like he is nerdy about one thing and it's cloning. So he was probably like halfway there already with like reflecting on it in his TED talk and all of that. So all she kind of had to do was push and be like, that thing you were talking about that you seem super into, you want to do that again? And he's like, I don't know, do I? Like immediately, like anything she's saying is in one ear and out the other because he's already like there. He's like halfway there already.
It's just if he stopped and thought about it, I think he could maybe be like, oh, this is a little weird. Like, yeah, I do want to do that, but why is she pushing me to do it? Like, but I think he's also too like, girl talking to me. Oh, what does this mean? Girl talking to me.
It's like when people aren't usually nice to you or friendly with you and suddenly they are, they're like, oh my God, I'm getting attention. Like clearly this is fine and you're not like willing to examine that any further. So that might be part of his problem.
But then they go to the graveyard. Jesus Christ. They go to a junkyard, trying to get him a lab, which has a fun little train chase sequence with some droids. And it all leads to like him getting the lab and then being betrayed almost instantly. And going to jail. Like
I can't believe this man was shocked when they take him into the little reconditioning room with the mind flare Princess Bride life sucking machine. When they take him in there and like prior to that, when they're like, Dr. Pershing, you're under arrest, and she just kind of picks up the lab and walks away. I'm like, you should have seen her alternate report coming. You should have gotten your thing on the record, like in the cop car.
What did you think? And he was like, she's gonna take care of me. No, she's not.
She wasn't under arrest. I don't like. They never once called her name. Like, first of all, if she was working with them, she would have been like, make this look convincing, but didn't like. I don't know why she thought he's not going to question this later, except that she fried his
Maybe
brain,
she
so
knew
he
he's
can't question it later.
He's dumb as rock.
Like he needed to get his side of the story in way before he tried, and I'm like, you had time to do that, I assume, unless they knocked him out right away. Did they? They might have.
No, I mean they had to travel back. So he was in a car at some point where he could have been like, hey guys, like, here's the deal. And like, they might not have believed him, but like, they could have, at least it was like he said it. So then later, if they find something out, they could be like, well, he did say that she did, like, but no, which then like he gets mind frayed or whatever the fuck it is, and then it cuts to Din. It's like, oh yeah, remember we're on the Mandalorian. Here they are. This is where they jump to, and they jump to a cult. So we went from, oh, maybe I'm in a rehabilitation facility on
Cult?
Coruscant to a cult.
No, that's just how I would feel. Like I'd just be like, if I were in Bo-Katan's shoes at this point, I'd be like, well, here I am. Here I am.
I'm now in a cult.
Yeah,
That was
I'm in a cult now, I guess.
that was my favorite. First of all, I love that no one believed Din. He showed up, and I knew it was gonna happen. He was like, "I'm redeemed," and Bo goes, "I watched it happen," and everyone other than the armorer was like, "Why the fuck am I
Yeah.
supposed to believe that?"
Yeah, he's fibbing.
Like, I don't know that you did that. And then I truly wish the water did nothing, but he was like, I brought you water. Because it was giving me the like, I brought you frankincense. I brought you murder. Like it like was that TikTok? Like that's what it was giving me. Like when they were like, oh, am I supposed to believe you? It was so weird, but also like Paz Vizsla basically being like, I don't fucking care what you think. I did say calm down, Jon Favreau, like out loud because he was popping off when Din showed back up. And I was like, we get it. You don't like him. Relax. Like, we're aware that you don't like him. But he went out of his way to almost die 4 fucking times so that he could be like redeemed. But I do like that fucking Bo-Katan just like goes, yeah, sure, this is the way. Because they're like, did you take your helmet
Yeah.
off? No, you're in the cult. What if that's how cults worked? They're like, have you been in a room with a Bible? You're in the cult.
Yeah.
I was like, it was a hotel. You're in the cult.
I feel like there are some cults that work that way. Like this very
So we're all
loose,
technically we're in cults.
this very
'cause we
like
stayed in a
loose
hotel.
sort of standard. And they're like, well, you met the standard. And she's like, I was trying to save his dumbass, but okay.
Yeah.
And they're like, nope, it's fine.
Did you take off
You're in
your
the
helmet?
cult.
I
Out of
didn't
us
really
now.
have time. Did you take off your helmet? No, I didn't have time. Fighters were attacking us. My first gut reaction wasn't, let's go.
And
It was
like the
I was
armor
gone.
sounds, she sounds so happy. She's like, well, did you take off your helmet? No. Then you can live as one of us. And Bo's like, I wasn't trying to live as one of you.
But she doesn't say anything, and that's where like I knew that was gonna happen. She does not say anything. She says, "Oh, I'm not a children of the watch," and then that's when the armorer is like, "Well, did you bathe in the water?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Did you take your helmet off?" No. Okay, well, like that means you can do it. And then Bo-Katan doesn't say anything, and I'm like,
Mm.
that bitch is questioning shit because she would, or Bo-Katan from before would have been like, "No, I'm not part of your cult." And now she's silent. and
I
knows
have
what
a
happened.
feeling it's because she got nowhere else to go. They just blew up her house.
Yep.
And she's like,
Just look
my
else.
ship's here. They got food. They got a bed. I need to plot a way to ride that mythosaur. So I'm just going to
Yeah.
sit here,
Exactly.
plot here,
Here's-
steal that Darksaber and go.
Mhm.
She's like, but if I antagonize them now, I'll have nowhere to go. That's what I'm hoping is happening.
But yeah, and so the episode ends with, a bunch of fucking Mandalorians going, this is the way, and Bo-Katan just being like, okay,
Mhm.
guess I'm in the cult now. This one was the most separated of, because like, for most of the time we are at least with Din for the majority of the episodes, so like even when we have these side stories, it's still majorly like Din and Grogu's journey. And this was one of the first ones where I was like, I straight up forgot that Din and Bo were doing anything.
Same.
I was on fucking Coruscant. And all of a sudden I was like, oh right, yeah, right. Where did you guys jump to?
They cut back to them. I'm like, right. This is about Din. This show's about Din.
Right.
Just
This
a
is not
reminder.
this is not
It
Dr.
is called The
Pennsylvania Pershing.
Mandalorian.
No,
Yeah,
it's
not Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing. If
No.
Disney, if you try and sell Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing and don't give us the money, watch Dr. Pennsylvania Pershing every
You
Wednesday.
cannot take Dr. PP from us. You can't do it.
He's ours now. Sorry.
Yeah, Dr. PP belongs to Podro Pascal. Dr. PP belongs to PP.
We're having a late night, folks. Real
Anyway,
late night.
guys, it's everyone's favorite time of the week. Real quick, before I do that, I'll drink this while you guys say overall thoughts. Did you guys like this episode?
Yes. Yes. They made it for me. It was my episode, so I was happy with it.
It was Arezou episode. I also liked it. I thought it was really fun and interesting to kind of see that perspective. It made me care about Dr. Pee-Pee. But now it is time for everyone's favorite segment of the show. Arezou gets to hear me sing this in real time. Stash, 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 stash. The stash on everybody's lips is gonna be Pedro's. Welcome to Stash of the Week, where we pick our favorite mustaches of Pedro Pascal's. But in honor of Arezou being here and this episode of The Mandalorian, we'll be doing 2 sections of PP mustaches.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either, but I said it. One for Pennsylvania Pershing and one for Pedro Pascal. So let's do Pershing first because obviously this was a Pershing episode. I picked, this was an honorary mention just because we were all there, but my actual pick is when he is flirting with Elia and looking cute and like Harry Potter. Arezou, why don't you tell the people about yours, which is
So this one. I picked this one because I love this scene because he's basically walking through this terminal doing his best John Ralphio, like, don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious. This is all that was going through my head the whole time.
Don't be suspicious.
So that's why I picked this one.
And Catrina?
Mine, of course, is also that same costume when they're doing their little jaunt through Coruscant. He's having a real Blade Runner moment here, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, it really was Blade Runner. Diving into Pedro sashes, I picked this beautiful little pic from the Oscars, from his hairstylist / groomer Courtney's Instagram post. I love it so much. He looks so happy. And I love he's rocking the hot priest look. Real happy for him and the hot priest. Arezou,
for
you
everything
went.
you do, Courtney.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is a Courtney fan zone. Arezou, you went Last of Us.
Yes. So I was actually looking for a still from the show where he's in this outfit because the scruff in this look was really working for me. I couldn't find it, but he did post this on Instagram a couple hours ago. I'm like, this is even better because it's just such a cute moment and it's the same look. So that's why I went with this one.
It's so cute. I love it so much. And Catrina, you went an oldie but a goodie.
Wonderful look. Speaking of talented stylists, he just looks so good in pink, and this was a good facial hair moment. Just great all around. Adorable curls. We love to see it.
Yes, we do. And so now, Arezou, tell the people where they can find you.
Best place to find me is Twitter at Arezou. I mean, probably screaming about Dr. Pershing, if not screaming about any of my other nonsense. I'm Arezou D2 on every other platform if you want to find me there. So, oh my God, what are they called? Instagram, Tumblr, Hive, should the Twitter ship go down. So yeah, best place to find me is there. Geeky Waffle, Collider, all of that.
Catrina, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me anywhere on the internet if you look for Catrina. That's OHCATRINA. I am getting back to streaming on my Twitch channel and my YouTube channel. So if you feel like watching me, go for it. I will be dropping schedules of my socials over the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to PAX East next week. So if you're there, come say hello.
You can follow me at Rachel Leishman on Twitter, at Rachel_Leishman on Instagram, my work at the Mary Sue and Collider. If you're going to Star Wars Celebration, hit me and Candace up because we still have to work. We were going to message you, Arezou. Candace and I are talking about maybe doing a Geeky Waffle / Podro meetup at some point during Celebration. So
that works for me. I will also
be
there.
Going? Yeah. That wasn't towards Arezou to like, if you're there, I know Arezou's going to be there, but if other people who are listening are going to be there, let us know. Make sure to make sure to like, rate, review, subscribe, tweet at us, tell Pedro Pascal, did you listen? And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.